Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Joyful Journeys as we celebrate our 25th anniversary in Northern Virginia. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Cara Alcorn. Welcome, Cara.
Hello. Hi, Sammy. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Cara, why don't you kind of kick us off? Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your time as a Girls on the Run participant and then what you're up to now.
Yeah, so I am originally from Ashburn, Virginia. I went to Sullivan's Landing Elementary School, which is where my Girls on the Run journey started. I did my first 5K with Girls on the Run. So in this picture from my first 5K, I have like my mom, my cousin, and I. My cousin was like maybe 20 at the time. I actually saw her this past weekend. I was in your neck of the woods, visiting family, and I was showing her kids. She has two daughters who are, one's in second grade and one is 6 years old. And I was like, I ran my first 5K with your mom, and just kind of bringing up Girls on the Run and just trying to just introduce them to that idea. And I just thought it was like a really beautiful moment of just like being showing them that picture of like, that's your mom, that was us running. Like you get to do this in next year. So
Yeah.
that was something that I was like just it felt like a nice full circle moment to bring that up. So I've had an interesting journey kind of with running ever since. It's kind of introduced me, Girls on the Run introduced me to the sport, and I remember having like really good memories with my mom and some family members that joined in on the fun. Um, I ran a little bit in college just like kind of as for fun, and then got into running again during the pandemic when there was just like not much else to do. I couldn't run a mile at the beginning of COVID and just started walking 7 miles a day in the morning. And then by the end of, I think the first year of COVID, I ran my first marathon around my parents' backyard, just kind of like as one does when they're handling a pandemic and
Right?
kind of just the COVID stress of living in your parents' house and dealing with a master's program and grandparents passing and all that. Running definitely became an outlet. I just kind of found running as again in like a as a way. It meant felt more like kind of like a bubble bath for my brain, just sort of like everything felt more manageable after a run. So kind of after, during COVID, I decided to move to Denver. And so I've been in Denver for about a little over 3 years now, which is crazy to think. And I've been a part of the Girls on the Run Council with Girls on the Run's Rockies division, and have been involved with the one elementary school in particular here, and just having a blast, coaching and seeing these girls grow from, third grade, and then, the middle schools, of course, close by. And so I'll see them walk home and just like the same girls that I've coached, walk by and say hi, which is just really exciting to see. So yeah, I
Oh,
think I'm going on my fifth season of coaching this season. So it's been a joy to kind of give back to the organization that's meant so much to me. So yeah.
very cool. Well, tell us a little bit more about how coaching versus being a Girls on the Run participant. Like, what do you remember from your days as a participant versus what is it like to see it in a coach's perspective now?
Yeah, I think one of my like fondest memories of being involved in Girls on the Run was my coach gave me this just it was a little framed heart, and there was a quote, and it said, have take pride in have how far you've come and have faith in how far you can go. And so I think I've kept that for that little like just trinket for years, and it that's always really stuck in my mind and has always, just been a good reminder, like, wow, look how far you've come. And then also, if you've come this far, just like, can't you would have no idea how far you can keep going. So I'm kind of just regurgitating the quote, but basically, I think from the coaching perspective, I'm just trying to my best to like inspire and motivate these girls in the way that like I was, and how much the organization left like a positive impact on me. And so just trying to give back in the best way I can. So, and it's like being a participant versus being a coach. Like sometimes they're not, sometimes they're like synonymous. Like you read the Girls in the Red lesson, preparing for you read the curriculum, preparing for the lesson, and it's like, wow, I really needed to hear that. Like I do have my star power and I do need to activate that today. Or like dealing with complicated situations, the whole stop, breathe analogy.
Yeah.
Like there's just so many good reminders that I think like you don't need to be a girl ages third through fifth grade to know this. So it's, I think, applicable to just good life skills in general. So I always, try to remember my back from when I was in those days. So
Yes, I agree. Um, as a coach, it's such a great reminder to hear those things and I mean even to learn them for the first time. I mean, the first time that I
yeah.
coached, I was like, wow, like sure, I know that I need to be an empathetic person. I need to put
Yeah.
myself in other people's shoes, but to be able to practice it with my team and to be able to really like see it in action and be able to
Hmm.
solidify it as they're learning and practicing it was just such a refreshing, it was just so refreshing. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's truly special to be able to either participate in Girls on Run and learn this stuff, or to be a coach and to get a refresher or learn it for the first time as well. So I completely, completely agree with that.
Yeah, totally.
Do you think that participating in Girls on the Run, how do you think it impacted the rest of your life? Do you ever do something or think about something and think, oh yeah, like I learned that at Girls on the Run and it made me believe that I could do this or anything along those lines?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I remember like being a kid and having no concept about what a 5K was or the distance or what it entailed and being like, kind of petrified. And then it's funny, like being on the other side of this because I'm now a marathon runner. I'm training for my sixth marathon right now. And uh, a 5K, I is not the distance is not an issue for me anymore, but like just kind of prepping the girls at the beginning of the season, like, oh, we're gonna run a 5K by the end, by May. And they're like, how long is that? What does that mean? Like they have no concept of that. And then they're like, then you do see kind of like a little bit of they're a little petrifying when they realize like we're gonna run that long. And then I think you just see them light up at the end when they're just like, wow, I did something that I had no idea what it was before and I just ran it. Well, and then I did it. And so I think just like being able to see people like these kids just kind of tap into their potential and being so surprised by what they can do. And it's like, okay, cool, what else can I do? And I think it's just building confidence and just through physical activity is just kind of like my something that really energizes me. So I hope that answers your question. I can't remember, but it's just something that popped in my head. I think that's just the whole concept of like them being petrified at the beginning of the season of like what that means to, oh, I crushed it, by a couple months later. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also kind of a nice reminder that we all start somewhere. And no
Hmm.
matter if that
Yeah.
is doing a 5K for the first time, if it's starting a new job, going into a new profession, anything at any part of
Yeah.
life, um, and just being reminded by the kids that, like, hey, they've never done this before, but sure, they might be scared. They're probably feeling a ton of emotions around it, but they're coming to practice every day. They're showing up. They're just taking it one day at a time. And then before you know it, they are completing a 5K and they are probably very shocked at the end that they actually
Yeah.
did it. But then they realize, oh, I can do this. I can do hard things. And
Yeah.
I mean, as an adult, that is so refreshing to see
Hmm.
because there are so many times where I feel terrified to start something new, and I just remember, hey, if they can do it and they can show up every day, I can do it and I can try new
Yeah.
hard things as well.
Yeah, totally. And I think like just going off of that, when we do the whole practice 5K thing, from a safety perspective, I'm like, okay, guys, like this is the practice 5K, so the streets aren't closed. Like, please always keep an eye out for an adult. But also, like, the reason why we do this practice 5K is to help build confidence for when you actually do the real 5K. And I always try to like kind of, I've read a few, self-help, motivational books along the way. One of my favorites is The Practice of Groundedness by Brad Stolberg. And he, in that book, I think he just brings up about how confidence is the feeling of, oh, I've been here before. And so I think just like reminding people that, and like reminding these girls that like, we do this now so that when you do the actual real 5K, it's like, oh, I've been here before, I can do this. And it's like, okay, taking a test, the more I do those, the more I'm confident I feel there. And like just kind of applying these very helpful tools and life lessons, like you introduce them in the sense of, training for a 5K, but like they're all very applicable, you know, across the board and whatever you kind of try. So that's yeah,
Yeah,
another thing to add.
yeah, definitely. And although I'm sure these young participants are not necessarily making those connections when they cross the
Yeah,
finish line. And they're probably not thinking ahead, like, oh, this is going to empower me to go
right,
to work on my first day of my new job.
right.
But kind of like you thinking back, like, hey, like I was in their shoes once, I accomplished this, and look at everything I can do moving forward. Hopefully, that's what they get out of it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. One can hope. So
Well, what else or what other ways have you been involved in Girls on the Run besides being a participant and now being a coach?
yeah, well, one thing I'm really proud of and being out in Colorado, I'm so glad that we have this opportunity. We, obviously live by the beautiful mountains. I'm a Girls on the Run 14er challenge participant, which basically entails we, raise, I think it's like $2,500. Is kind of what we committed to. I've done the challenge twice, and I'm hoping to do it a third time this summer. We basically commit to raising $2,500, and then in return, we hike 2 14ers. So those are like for people, I didn't know what a 14er was before I moved to Colorado. So for those sea level folks, it's a mountain that's the summit is about 14,000 feet in elevation. And so we hiked Mount Massive on Saturday and then Mount Elbert on Sunday. And it's just kind of like, a great way to like raise money and also like, a lot of ways to kind of talk to the people like my community that aren't involved in Girls and Runner know that I do that like as a way to kind of introduce them to what this organization and it's also great just to meet other coaches and like moms who've also or just heard about the challenge and wanted to do something hard this summer and just it's a beautiful weekend and I had a blast doing that. So that's yeah, probably other than coaching, that's my big contribution.
That is so neat. That is such a unique experience that
hmm
you guys get to have out there
Yeah.
and the fact that you're giving back to Girls on the Run and helping just to spread its name, tell people about it in such a fun way. Um, that is so neat. And that you get to do it with other people who are
Yeah.
passionate about the organization. Um, that is just so cool.
Yeah. And I actually met because I moved out to Denver. I didn't know anybody. I just was like, Denver sounds cool. I'll move there. And one of kind of my good friends now who's like we met through the 14er challenge. And so we're like buds now. She's kind of taken me under her wing and introduced me to a whole other, circle of women who I run with and who are also just, incredibly strong and just they are people who like, the kind of folks that run 100-mile races and just, qualify for Boston super, super easily and
Right.
do all those types of things. So that's been just like a great Girls on the Run has given me a lot and that's uh, I'll add that to the list too as a nice community of women and friends. So
Yeah, that. That is definitely something that I can agree with. When I
Mhm.
first started coaching, I quickly became very good friends with my co-coach, and we had never met prior to our first
Mhm.
practice. We talked
Mm.
on the phone for about 30 minutes right before practice, and then we showed up and met for the first time. Luckily, like we quickly hit it off and became very good friends. And she and our team inspired us to run our first half marathon together. So
No.
it was very inspirational. But like you said, it connects you with a ton of people who likely have similar interests since you're volunteering
Yeah.
your time doing the same thing. But yeah, it's a really, really special community meeting people who are so involved with Girls on the Run.
Totally. And I mean, like, just Girls in the Run obviously introduced me to running. And then when I first moved out here, I looked for a run club. And that's just where, just a community of, I have to shout out Citius Run Club in Denver. If you ever, if you ever find yourself in Denver on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, I hope you come join us for a run. But it's just a great community of just happy people who run, and you just get so close with people, and especially like I think doing a physical activity outside, just it's easy to really get close to people that way. So, yeah, beautiful sport.
Yes, I agree. There is no better way to get to know somebody than going on a run with them,
Yeah, yeah,
learning everything about them.
for sure. A little too much sometimes, but that's all right. It's the nature of the
That's what
beast. So,
happens. Very cool. Well, Kara, thank you again so much for joining us on this episode. For everyone listening in, make sure you tune in soon for another episode with another program alumni. Thanks, Kara.
alrighty, thanks, Sammy.
This episode of Joyful Journeys is brought to you by Girls on the Run of Northern Virginia.